journey of working with him, I realized that I think I'd rather do this for a living. I was working in Manhattan. I had a day job, and I said that I just really got into doing it, and the reward of working on a car and watching it go from point A to point B was just a thing. I mean, I'd always worked on my own cars as
Sure.
a kid. I mean, but doing this was just something really cool, and it was handmade. And there was no instructions and all this stuff. And it just kind of made me
Sure.
change my life.
Well, but you had a pretty good day gig at the time, right? You were an audio engineer for Letterman?
I worked for Letterman, and that's kind of like the cross-pollination. I mean, Letterman was into Ferraris.
Yeah.
And he also, and the way Francois and I knew each other was that we kind of worked for the same boss. I mean, he worked on Dave's cars, and
Sure.
I knew Francois, and, it was like this whole thing. So, work for Dave, whenever there was off time, we would chat about cars, and then I would go to Francois on the weekends or on Fridays and work on it. So it was always in this whole world of cars. But at the same time, like I said, I went to art school with study photography. So I ended up in television just because of the connections I made through school, and just fell into television and was really enjoying it. And I could have stayed there forever.
Right.
I mean, I would probably be working for Stephen Colbert right now if I had stayed.
Right.
But I didn't, and I just said now's the time to make the move, and everything kind of fell in place. And I told Dave I think it's time for me to go. I don't think he was really happy about it, but at the same time, you got to do.
But he's a car guy, so he had to kind of understand.
Kind of did.
He kind of
did,
sort of.
Dave is still the king.
He's the king.
You're leaving him, so it's just like
nobody leaves me.
Yeah.
Well,
that's a whole other story. At the same time, I did what I did.
Sure, I got to imagine though, being the audio engineer. I mean, all the great artists that you probably got to work with over the years. How wonderful is that? I mean, I know there was mundane stuff where you're just mixing voices, but
what I did was my job was what they call second audio. So I was stage audio.
Right.
So my job was to basically liaison with all the bands that came in. So a semi would show up, and we basically put on a rock show every day.
Wow.
And then we'd set it up, tear it down, put it away, load the truck. Next day, another truck would go in. Wow. And then my other job was to deal with all the wireless microphones that were involved on the stage. So anybody who wore microphones, I had to put them on. So before the show would start, I'd be going up to the dressing room. So I used to tell people that I would meet all the stars that would be sitting at Dave's desk, and I'd have to meet them all, and that was my occupational hazard. Was I actually had to go up there and talk to them, and, put microphones on and run them up, their dresses.
Awkward, a little awkward,
stuff.
or not.
I was kind of like a doctor. I was like a gynecologist. Like it sounds like a cool job, but it's actually not that fun. But the thing is, in my 20s, it was a blast. I mean, it was you got to work with all the rock bands, and you got to do all that stuff backstage, and again, it was a great gig. I just think that I liked working on Ferraris more.
Right. What was the top of Letterman's collection at that time? What would have been his piece de resistance?
Well, he was building his collection about the same time I was working for him. So Francois was advising him on everything. So he bought like a 500 super fast. He bought a 400 Super America. He had a 330 GTS, GTC. I mean, he bought like everything.
Right.
I mean, and he bought them right. I mean, I remember Dave. I was working on getting my car, and he had bought a Lusso, a 250 Lusso, and I'm pretty sure he paid $150,000 for the car. Because knowing what Dave paid for the car, I was trying to do the calculation. To me, it was like, could I have reached for that? Because I mean, quite honestly, with all numbers said, because now it's a long time ago, I bought that car for $30,000.
Wow, which was a lot of money back then.
Which was I borrowed the money. I borrowed I think 10 grand of it, and I probably overpaid because you could have bought a running driving car for $40,000.
Right.
But I didn't have another 40. I didn't have $40,000, so I bought that. But and I also know that at the time that I was buying that car, a Lusso and parts and pieces that I heard rumor was available was a $75,000.
Right.
And I could have donated both kidneys, and I still wouldn't come up with $75,000. And here's Dave writes a check for $150, and he's got a running driving Lusso, and I was like,
Oh,
God, I wish I
man.
had that kind of money.
You're kind of living vicariously through him, but you're probably also going, dadgummit, I'd like to have that.
Yeah.
Of course,
I'll never get a Lusso. It's like, but it was just so funny because he invited me up. We went for a ride in it when he first got it, and I was just sitting there going, "Man, it's so easy to just write that check and buy this damn car."
Well, and especially the kind of money that he was making. Obviously, that was a nothing check. That was throwaway money. So
but there were times that he did. There were times that he didn't. He wouldn't pull the trigger.
Sure.
I mean, we had a short wheelbase that had come up, and I remember trying to tell him, "Oh, you just buy it," and I know that at the time they were worth around 900 to $1 million. I think he could have gotten it for 900,000,
right?
And he wouldn't do it. He wouldn't do it. It was just too much money.
Yeah, and
it's like that car now is worth $8 to $10 million.
Exactly.
The Classic Auto Mall Show with their host Stewart Howden.